in Alberta, University of Alberta, when I was doing my master's. What it says, and no one disagrees on the translation. Okay, it says Arundhati, okay, is walking ahead of Vasishta. So let's understand who is Arundhati Vasishta. So, are you familiar with the panhandle of the Ursa Major?
Yes, Saptarshi.
Saptarshi. So you have the pan, or you can say the kite and the tail, right?
Right.
So the pan, and then the handle. Handle has got 3 stars. The middle star is called Vasishta in the Indian astronomy. In modern astronomy, the name is Mizar. Just next to it, there is a small star. In the modern astronomy, they call it Alcor. In Indian astronomy, that's Arundhati. It's a very small star. Now, if you look at their positions right now, Arundhati is east of Vasishta. So what happens? At night, you are sitting there, and that whole panhandle actually, at some point, it goes below the horizon. So let's say it's coming up the horizon. What you'll find is that Vasishta, or the Mizar, it will come first, because it is west of Arundhati, and Earth is going from west to east. So as it's going down, you're going to see the Vasishta come up first, immediately followed by Arundhati. That is the scenario today. That was the scenario 1000 years ago. That was the scenario 2000 years ago. That was the scenario 3000 years ago. In fact, if you go back like 4000 years ago, the scenario is even more bright, meaning the distance between the two of them is so far away that actually they are nicely separated from two. Vasishta comes first, and then after Arundhati comes. What Mahabharata says is that Arundhati is walking ahead of Vasishta, meaning the position was almost exactly opposite. There was a guy named C.V. Vaidya. Lokmanya Tilak gave him the title called Bharatacharya. He says this is a rubbish. Some later author mixed that with Mahabharata. Another person, P.V. Kane, great guy, and I use a lot of his research, but not this one. He was Bharat Ratna, one of the Bharat Ratna, and Mahābhārata, he says whoever that introduced those references into Mahabharata introduced something that is impossible in the very order of nature. Okay, so what is happening is right now, if you consider this our current North Pole star, okay, and all the stars are rotating around it. So let's say this is the path of any star, and what happens is, if you consider this as a Vasishta, okay, and this as Arundhati, something like this. Right now, the direction, this is called diurnal motion or 24-hour motion, they complete a circle. So right now you will see Vasishta goes like this and Arundhati follows. Now, we need to know the precision of equinoxes. That is another motion I'm going to do with the dotted line, where the celestial North Pole, the point of celestial North Pole, it keeps on moving like this. And it completes one circle, and it takes 26,000 years. That's known as the precession of equinoxes. Okay? So for example, Polaris is the star right now in 2011 AD. If you go back in 12,000 approximately BC, you had Vega, okay, or Abhijit as the pole star. Now the scenario, and I'm because I already did it, I'm going to give you that specific date, but I did not necessarily knew that per se, okay, and I have to draw this somewhat here, to make it understandable. So the position of celestial North Pole during 5561, the date verified by me as a date of Mahabharata. Now imagine the scenario. So now all the stars, this is the North Pole in 5561 BC, and all the stars, including frankly Vega and Polaris, they are going to, so Polaris will go like this around this North Pole. Vega would go like this around this North Pole. And these two, they're also going to go in a circle around this. Now look at this. So this is the direction, that's when they go. This is the position of Arundhati, this is the position of Vasishta. Before, in 2080, which is now, you see Vasishta going ahead and Arundhati following. Now, if you follow this star of Arundhati and this star of Vasishta with respect to this as the center point, center of the circle, you will notice that it will appear, not much difference, but it will appear that Arundhati is going ahead of Vasishta. And this particular phenomenon lasted for approximately 6,500 years. And so, assuming we can trust the observation in Mahabharata that Arundhati was walking ahead of Vasishta, this is the 6,500 years time period that we want to call the epoch of Arundhati, which is the probable time, plausible time where we should search for the year of Mahābhārata war.
In your book, on page 7, you talk about the method of scientific investigation as a metaphorical triangle with explanation, prediction, and testing as 3 corners of this triangle. Could you explain what you mean by that?
Thank you for your question.
This is 2011 when I published that book. The first video, it's like 4 June 2011 is when I published, and possibly done on like 10 June in my office there. Some other guy, Anish, he had that flip cam, if you remember the days of flip cam, so he just did it. And see, when you see it, I didn't like it. I mean, it's not well done, let's do it again. But the common sense prevailed. I said, let's post it. When I do a better one, I can remove that. Never made anything, so it's glad it's there. What I want to show you, let's see if I can find it. So if you go to, let's see what shows up. So if you go to YouTube and just type my name, you're going to get these videos, so okay. Let's see. Okay. So I want you to go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay. So 427 subscribers, 36 videos. Let's take it to 1,000. Just all right. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. It's still uploading, so I have a book trailer, so let's see. Okay, so whoever asked me, can we visually see Arundhati walking ahead of Vasishtha in a simulation? Okay, it's going to be a bit sketchy. Sketchy in the sense, all you're going to see is 2 dots, 2 white dots there. One Arundhati. They are tagged. Let's see what we find. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, and keep it that way, because so how many of you could see Arundhati walk ahead of Vasishtha here? Anyone? Who could not see Arundhati walk ahead of Vasishtha? What question I need to ask? I'm not sure. Did you see the 2 stars here? One was tagged as Arundhati, another Vasishtha, and they are just going. Now what I showed is they are expanded so much that as if they appear like going straight. Do you know why? So when they are going here, do you know where the North Pole is? That's why I cannot show you the point of North Pole. I have to expand to show the differentiation. Okay, so that's why that was. Let's see. Mars evidence. From simulation. So, and you know, this is a kind of old technology. Now there are better ways of doing it. So I was running it on my computer, and with a flip cam, I am recording it. So the resolution is slightly poor. So let me see. Saturn and Jupiter. So these are some simulated videos, but a very poor quality. I mean, but it's I mean, you can still. So the session that we are going to cover, okay, I'm going to go very fast through it. Okay, so bear with me if this is a chance, because there is other stuff that you will miss. Okay, so I don't want you to get stuck on this. If you get it, great. If you don't get it, that's fine. Okay, just going to give it a quick shot. All right. What is it? Yes. So the public domain software is called Stellarium. Stellarium. The public, it's a free software, Stellarium. The one that I use, I tend to prefer. They both are good. This one is more accurate. The one I'm going to tell you, Voyager, Voyager, Voyager. And more than likely you can download the demonstration version. Okay. And again, to buy, I mean, again, even if you convert, is you passionate, it's not that. I mean, online is like a $100, and then it's forever. There's so much you can do. Okay, I'll find in the another break if I can find it. Okay, so let's begin. As I said, this planetary evidence. See, you might have realized by now, to understand a certain observation, and someone said it, like 215 observation, the one observation, before it can be tested, you have to almost prepare yourself, you know, it's like building another foundation before you can start explaining it. Now, Mahabharata text has close to 30, just approximate number, close to 30 astronomy observations related to planets. Okay, we are actually will see the verse and we are going to go with it. So the first two observations, first two sets of observation, I am going to spend some time to see if you can get it. If you don't get it, we will let it go, just I will say it, and there is always a next time. Okay. How do we go about testing astronomy observations? So first thing, unless you have a narrowed down version for some times, it will not happen. I mean, you can be doing this forever. Fortunately, Arundhati Vasishtha allowed us to limit this. Then these Bhishma Nirvana observations allowed us to bring it down. Now keep in mind, when I did this first time in 2011, although the Bhishma Nirvana and evidence was there, I hadn't reached that. I had only Arundhati Vasishtha bracket, so 6,500 years, and I was searching into that whole 6,500 years. Like you said, why not 11,000 or 10,000? No, I wasn't against it. Actually, I wanted to see wherever it shows up. Just because Vartak said 5561 BC, I wasn't looking for that. In fact, you know how you research it? You progress by critiquing the existing works. By critiquing, it doesn't mean criticizing and putting the other people's down. That's not what it means. By critiquing. So when actually I was trying by every observation, because Vartak's date 5561 fell between the epoch of Arundhati and few others. There were 4 dates. One was by Modak, Lele, and there was, I forget the name now, but it was for 5228 BCE. And then now I found another one few years later, Shaligram, for some number. That wasn't there. So I had 4 dates, and I started looking at Arundhati is done, because still they all can explain Arundhati. So what do? I go to the next one. So the next one I could go was Saturn and Jupiter. And the reason I took the combination is because one of the reference to Saturn and Jupiter comes together. Okay? And also the fact that they are the slowest moving planets visible to the naked eye. With me? Okay. So the trees that I talked about, so trees is a theory of inventive problem solving. Now, understand the frameworks. I did not know trees, nor I needed to know trees. It's not important, but going back to the meridian, it's not important that you understand the trees. I'm just giving you this as a metaphor to understand what was going on in my mind directionally. You follow? I didn't know even trees at that time when I solved this. It's an inventive problem solving employed to explain how the puzzle of planetary positions can be solved. So just like I showed this framework here, it can be used. It's not needed. If you understand Arundhati Vasishtha observation and you get that aha eureka moment, you don't need this triangle. Okay, it just helps. The planets are described in multiple places. This means, and both Ashwini and Arundhati ji suggested me that so is it okay if I delete this almost in your mind now? Okay, so we will keep this seasons. I think we don't need seasons, but we'll keep them right now. Lunar months, I will also make a list if we need it. But we do need the list of nakshatras, and you know it's a lot of work. By the way, very good handwriting, you know, you have there yesterday's. So I'm going to just do as a rough one: Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, Mrugashirsha, Ardra. So it's Ashwini. Okay, so Punarvasu, Pushya, Magha, Purva Falguni, Uttara Falguni, Hasta, Chitra. So you know approximately they need to be kind of here. Okay. Swati, Vishakha, Anuradha, Jeshta, Mula, Purvashada, Uttarashada, Shravan, Dhanishta, Shatataraka, Purva Bhadrapada, Uttara Bhadrapada, Revati. Not a bad job, huh? Okay. So they're kind of in a circle. Okay. Think of the Ashwini Bharani is kind of opposite to this Chitra Hasta. You know, that's approximate it is. The reason I'm drawing it, and I'll draw it there, but I'm not able to show all the nakshatras every time. The PowerPoint doesn't allow you the space. You know, it becomes too crowded. But the reason I'm drawing it is to see how can you, I'm going to ask you some questions. So if Mahabharata observations are like that, and if you were in my place or any Mahabharata researcher's place, what would you start doing? Okay. So I started with Saturn and Jupiter because they don't move much. Okay, you cannot move them much. So let's look at the Saturn evidence. Okay. So planetary motions, some 27 plus observations. So there are 3 specific observations for Saturn, 3 specific observations for Jupiter. Okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So this is Saturn observation number 1. There are 3 observations. Once the first observation says Prajapatyam hi nakshatram grahastikshno mahadyuti shanaishchara pidayati pidayan pranikodikam. Okay. We have to take away the details, poetic things. Simply saying it is saying the nakshatra of Prajapati, what is it? Rohini. So now you know that's like opens another foundation that we need to know. The nakshatra names are there, but each nakshatra has a devata. Okay, and many times the nakshatras are identified by the devata. So Prajapatyam cha nakshatra, Prajapati is the nakshatra devata of Rohini. Okay, so those people who are that, they will know it's a Rohini. Grahastikshno Madhyati Shaneshchara Pideti. Saturn is afflicting, doing something to Rohini. Okay, that's the one. And this is comes in Udyog Parva, and then in Bhishma Parva it says Rohini Pidayannesha Stito Raja Shaneshchare. Oh yeah, in the power this mode, right? So. Okay, so we have this nakshatra system, Earth at the center, and here. Okay, so it's saying that's that, and Rohini Pidayannesho Stito Rajeshaneshchare means the same thing. Rohini is being troubled, afflicted by Shani. So in a very simple fashion, see if this is Rohini, my nakshatra number 1, that's why I said don't get stuck Ashwini number 1 or anything. So if this is my nakshatra 1 as a Rohini, what as a description, what can describe that Saturn is doing something to Rohini, afflicting. One possibility is that that planet Saturn is right here somewhere. Would you agree? That is the one possibility. The another possibility is that they are present, this is in astronomy, it is called Bheda or Yuddha or Bheda, meaning they are at the opposite end of the sky visible. Okay, so you can consider that like they are, like a war time, the person throwing arrows from there. It's a sort of astronomy concept as a Bheda. If you go to Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute edition, that Rohini Pidayannesha Stita Raja Shanaschare, the another version, it says Akashe Rohini Bhettum. So in the sky, the Saturn is doing a Bheda with a Rohini, like a fighting with a Rohini, Yuddha and a Bheda. So you see those. That is the value of seeing the multiple editions. So that is the one reference. So one is the Rohini is right here, or it is sort of close to 180-degree opposite. You follow? That is just two possibilities. Now remember, the year of the Mahābhārata war, the Saturn is such a stable planet in terms of its position. It takes 30 years, 29 point some years to complete, which means what? It is essentially there in one nakshatra for 1 year, close to that. Make sense? 27 nakshatra, I am just doing 30 years. So almost there, more than 1 year in the same. Now it goes retrograde and all, but let's ignore that for a minute. This becomes important. So if I say it is here, I cannot fool around and suddenly bring here to explain the another observation. You agree for that? So let's look at the second set of observations. So here I am just going to take a leap of faith. So Saturn for 5561 BCE was near Hasta, Uttara Falguni, Hasta and Chitra. So let's see, here is my Rohini, okay, and where is that? Uttara Falguni, Chitra. So, and Saturn was here, and here is my Rohini. Okay, so if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like a 10 nakshatras away. The ideal would be what? 13? There are 27 nakshatras, so exactly opposite would be 13. So that's possibility. Visually you can say 10 is fine. Why? Because they have to come above the horizon before you can even see them. So some nakshatras. But so what I am saying is, if we may able to say, you don't have to accept it, just take a leap of faith, that a Saturn in Uttara Falguni or Chitra or Hasta may be seen as afflicting Rohini. Okay, now when you see that, you don't believe it, but trust me, for the reason I am going to bring the trees, the other problem. Let's go to the next observation of Saturn. What it is showing, and this many times the version you come, Bhagam Nakshatra. So Bhagyam doesn't mean here anything, so spelling mistake. In our literature, like we talk of no interpolation, well, there are some interpolation, but it's not like the whole there is a wholesale interpolation. There are many types of errors. Okay, so interpolation is a very obvious one, but we shouldn't jump to that. That is the last thing we should jump ever. But there is a translation, transcription, transpolation, what is that? Transliteration, like someone copying it, someone typing it. There are all kinds of errors that enter. So it could be that. But we can find many versions where it says Bhagam Nakshatra Makramya, Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate. What is a Bhaga Nakshatra? Anyone? Again, this is a Bhaga Devata. Okay, this is the Nakshatra Devata of Purva Falguni, Uttara Falguni. And somewhere you can see Aryaman, and then there is an exchange between them. Again, approximately good enough. If you go detail, we will be just on this for 10 days, just on this one line. Okay, there is some variation that you will see in the different list. If you go to Shatapat Brahman, it's a different list, slightly different list. Directionally, they are all same. Okay. For example, someone saying Arnakulam is near Kochi, other person says no, it's not really that close. You understand what I am saying? It's different on the perspective. So essentially we are saying Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate. Bhaga is Purva Falguni, Uttara Falguni. Akramya. And it is indeed near Uttara Falguni, Hasta and Chitra. Would you be able to say that it is doing an Akraman on Bhaga Nakshatra? Yes, no? I am saying this nakshatra here is Purva Falguni, Uttara Falguni, and it is next to them. Yes, no, I cannot go further. As a tentative, yes, we can say that it's right there. Just like I said, Rohini, it can be close. So this is my second observation. Okay, so that Purva Phalguni, Uttara Phalguni just next to it. The third observation is very interesting because it comes in the context of Jupiter. It's not a stand-alone Saturn observation. It says Graho Tamra Runashikho Prajvalanta Vivastito Saptarshinam Udaranam Samavachhadya Vaiprabha. For a minute you can ignore these two, although they are related to these two. Samvatsara Sthayinamcha Graho Prajvalito Vabhav Vishakhayo Samipastho Bruhaspati Shaneshcharo. The last two lines are important. What is it saying? Samvatsara Sthayinamcha, for a year, up to a year. Okay? Graho Prajvalito Vabhav. These planets, Ubhav, these two planets are shining brightly, Prajvalito Ubhav, where Vishakhayo Samipastav, in the vicinity of Nakshatra Vishakha. And who are those two? Bruhaspati, Shaneshcharo. Do I need to write the name of planets? Again, yes? Okay. Now, no matter how many names I write, you are going to get still confused, but here it is. Okay, so Sun, Moon, and then we have Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury. Okay? And so what I am going to do here is Moon, Sun, not a problem. Actually, they do get a name sometime. But Saturn is Shaneshchara, Jupiter is Bruhaspati. Okay, and we will, as we go, we will add the names. Okay, all right. So in this case, it's saying the Bruhaspati and Shaneshcharo are in the vicinity of Vishakha. Now, what I'm showing you the positions for 5561 BCE. Okay, so now I'm just explaining it. When I went, that's what the trees. I'm trying to get the sea-going boat to go faster. 800 kilometers an hour. So going from there to the aeroplane. Okay, so that the Jupiter's position was near Shravan or before Shravan. So it was somewhere near between say Jeshta, Mula, Purvashada, Uttarashada, Shravan. Somewhere in that region. Shravan is like 20. Vishakha is there and Saturn is here. So if you just focus on this and that somebody says, hey, this is how it is and that's how it was described. Would you accept that? So by itself, Saturn, so is near Vishakha? No, it's not near Vishakha. It is Purva Phalguni, Uttara Phalguni. If you look at the Jupiter, it's not near Vishakha. Vishakha is that number 13. Then you have what is that? Anuradha, Jeshta, Mula, Purvashada, Uttarashada and Shravan. 19 is Shravan. But if you look at this as a equidistant, so I'll give you examples. Somebody, suppose you are talking, what's your name, ma'am? Huh? Radha? Nadia. Okay, Nadia. So suppose Nadia is making a trip to India, and if she asks the question, hey, you know what? I'm kind of I want to visit Bhopal and Chandigarh. Where should I fly? What would you say? Delhi? Okay. And we say, okay, all right, because they are in the vicinity of a Delhi. Because she gave you the context that she needs to go to Chandigarh and also Bhopal, you gave her a Delhi. So, but then independently somebody asked a question, oh, Bhopal is like near Delhi, no? What would you say? No, it's not that close. So, if you ask an individual question if Bhopal is near Delhi, the answer may be it's not close. But if you ask in the context of a Chandigarh and a Bhopal, you might say go to Delhi and they both are in the, Delhi is the right place. They both are in the vicinity of a Delhi. You follow what I'm saying? Something like this. So, just by themselves they are not. But if the verse says Samvatsarasthainancho for a year, and by the way, remember when they go retrograde, Saturn flows little, so it will go 2-3 nakshatra. Jupiter will go 3-4 nakshatra when it goes retrograde. Okay? Just goes backwards and comes forward. We didn't have a chance to go through the retrograde. That's very basics of astronomy. I don't expect you to know it, but if you would have a time, we would have gone through that. Actually, that's very fascinating for Mahabharata. I'll try to give you a flavor of it. So, in this case, individually we cannot, but just like Delhi and is okay for Bhopal and Chandigarh, we will say, okay, Shravan on one side, say 3-4 nakshatras separated, Saturn on the other side, 3-4 nakshatras separated, with the vicinity of Vishakha in the center, I can accept it. With me? Okay. Now that's how these 3 observations of Saturn at least are explained. Okay, just stay with me, we are going to go through. Now for example, let's take another case. Forget Professor Iyengar doesn't even talk about these observations. We talked yesterday about the arbitrary or selective evidence versus all evidence. He doesn't talk of any of these observations. Okay. Now Professor Achar does. I am just using that as an example. So what Professor Achar does for 3067 BCE, he can show that Saturn was indeed near Rohini, right here. Okay, 3067, it was right there. So the very first observation, Prajapatyam cha nakshatram grahat tikshna mahadyati shaneshchara pidayati pidayan pranikodikam, check mark. Done, good job. How would he explain from here, okay, afflicting this? Possibly he can the same way that I did this. Are you with me? If Saturn from there can afflict Rohini, Saturn from here can also afflict Purva Phalguni, so he will able to explain it. With me? Okay. Now Shravan, how would he explain that this planet is in the vicinity of Vishakha along with Jupiter? By the way, his Jupiter is near Revati. So Rohini, what is that? Kritika, Bharani, Ashwini, Revati. So for 3067, Jupiter is near here and Saturn is near here. Will you be able to explain this observation? That these two between no. So out of the 3 observations, frankly, he can explain the first. In fact, he should get 100 marks. No questions asked. Right there, Rohini, come on, what are you talking? Just like for 5561, I should get 100 marks here. Very simple, you know. But he will explain the second, but he cannot explain the third. Okay. But something to tell you, and just to tell you the dynamics of it, he chose only the first observation. The first page I showed you those 2 references, he accepts those. But these other 2, this reference, no, do you know what, what he says about this, Brospati Shaneshcharo? Because he didn't want to go this route, and there was a reason for it, because he couldn't explain, now you see it. So he came up with a theory here, and we'll talk about the consistency of a theory. He said those Brospati Shaneshcharo near Vishakha are actually not planets. Anyone familiar with Achar's work, Professor Achar's work, other than the name and 3067? So do read, it's there in the public domain. He says those Brospati Shaneshcharo are not planets. Actually, they are comets with the name Brospati, with the name Shaneshchara. Okay, Vishakha. Now that sounds a bit crazy, but you know what? If you are in the science, crazy stuff is something you love. You say, wow, that's exciting. And I'm not just making up a story. When I read that, I got excited. I said, that's nice. I never thought of that. This could be comets. But what would you expect? Suppose he says, there are 2 comets with the name Brospati and Shaneshcharo. There were 2 comets, Brospati and Shaneshcharo, with a name in the Mahabharata times, and they showed up near Vishakha. What would you expect? What would you expect from Professor Achar if he claims that there were 2 comets in year 3067 near Nakshatra Vishakha? We should be able to simulate it. You cannot. You cannot. And if you ask the question, there is no answer, okay? What is it?
Simulation has become only in the last. This kind of simulation has become available only in the last 15 years. Does his work predate that, and that's why it's not, or I'm just asking as a...
if you ask me on the camera, I'll say there are integrity problems with the work. No, actually, Achar is one of the first one to use planetarium. Okay. He's not the first, but he's one of the first. Okay. Okay. And just to tell you, like folks with a hand calculation, it takes a lot of efforts. You can do the same multiplication what you do on a calculator using logarithms or by hand. It just takes a lot of effort. Likes of Tilak or Shankar Balakrishna Dikshit or Pava Kane, Lele, whoever, Srinivasan, the calculations they have done 60 years ago, 100 years ago, that work is more impressive than I don't mean just Achar, but many who are claiming right now. But Achar had access to simulation. Okay. Now he still has access to simulation. So suppose, I mean, we all can make mistakes, and if you go to my blog, some of the errors I made while writing it and I corrected it, it is there. Okay, like people ask me, but oh, you think you are all correct, you know, you say you don't make a mistake, you didn't make a mistake. I said, how much time you have? I can go on and telling you my errors, you know, the mistakes I made. No, okay. So, so that's what happens. So nothing to do with that. Okay. So now some people don't even look at it, but these are the 3 observations. Just take it as a tentative for now. So I explained the 3 observations of Saturn. Let's go. Yeah. So these are in the vicinity of Vishaka. Okay, the equidistant nakshatra space, if you want to call it. And what I am showing you with those dotted lines is kind of the region in which will the Saturn or Jupiter will go back and forth during their retrograde. Jupiter will go a bit longer, okay, Saturn will go a bit closer. So the point here is, depending on when exactly the observation was made, it might make a more effective case for Vishaka, depending on where they were, okay. Which one? Or I mean, Achar has a different theory, but not a bad theory. Actually means a planet, but Graha literally means also something that grabs. Right? So comet, he said comet can be considered a Graha. I don't object to that. The objective testing demands, if you are saying there were 2 comets next to Vishaka, okay, I will buy that. Now show me the 2 comets next to Vishaka. In, yeah, whichever year they are claiming, correct. Correct. Okay, that's right, isn't it? Oh, I have made a very tasty avial, you should try. You go, then nothing. Okay, so in terms of that, okay. So let's look at the Jupiter evidence. I will start with the one, Jupiter also has 3 observations. I will start with the one that we already know. This is also the observation of Jupiter, so I don't need to spend time, okay. The next observation of Jupiter appears on the Rohini Shashi Bhaskar. Okay, okay. So the names of Shashi and Bhaskar. So I am glad I wrote this. So here sun is called Bhaskar, you know that, and moon is called Shashi. Okay. So before going into the Jupiter observation, I am deliberately taking another observation from Mahabharata. Rohini Pida Yatte Vubhav Cha Shashi Bhaskaro. These both Shashi and Bhaskar together are also afflicting Rohini. Okay. Now the first day of the war, now again there are also controversies what it is. I am just going to go, my claim for the first day of war is Amavasya. There are many others who also say Amavasya. There are few others who say something different. For example, Professor Iyengar says it was the Purnima day, the first day of the Purnima. Now, if you have listened carefully to what I said, Professor Iyengar's claim, the first day of the war was the full moon day. What evidence goes against it that I have discussed during last day and a half? Not Bhishma Nirvan. Oh, something else. Huh? Kritika Nakshatra. So his claim is that forget there, he's not talking the description. Full moon day was the first day. Not Kartika Purnima. No. The phases and positions of the moon. Remember the first 7 days there are no descriptions of the moon. The 8th day is the first description, 7th, 9th day description, 12th day is the first full moon description, then full moon for the next few days, then correct? Okay, and if you read the details, there are many other observations related to Amavasya that I have not discussed, okay. So that goes again. So now what happens, he is making a local claim for the first day of the war, forget the year, local day as a full moon day, and that can be falsified not by Arundhati Vasishta, not by anything else, by the phases and positions of the moon for the 15 days description. You follow what I am saying? You have to get, in the old times. Yeah. If the Jarasandha is fighting, then he's fighting with the Bhima. You know, I mean, this is not statecraft, but what a brilliant formula. Like, you know, in mathematics, 100 divided by 1000 is same as 1 over 10, right? So, instead of getting 100 people on one side and 1000 people on other side and fight them and let's see who wins, you can also take 1 and a 10. Sometimes they did even better, Jarasandha versus Bhim. So, finally the decision is made, okay, whether the Iraq loses or America, but it is done by just fighting two. Now, America won't like that because America might lose, you know, with that one. But you understand what I am saying? Okay, anyways. So, Rohini Pidayatyeva Ubhaucha Shashi Bhaskaro. The first day of the war for 5561 BCE, the sun and the moon were here where I have shown. They were between Mula and Purva Ashada. 1617, that's where they were for 5561 BCE. Are you with me? So, from there, if I draw the line, I can say, remember that same logic, the Bheda, Yuddha. Okay, I can say, okay, from there they are afflicting. In fact, I may have a simulation, I'll show you. If you go just to the sunset, you will find sun and moon on the horizon, and then the Rohini here on the eastern horizon. You follow? So, that's like they are affecting. So, the reason I showed you this, okay, here is my simulation. Now, ignore the direction, which is west, which is east. Just trust me that they are right, you know. So, here is the sun. You won't see the moon, but it is there. Yeah. So, that is the actual factual visual, right. So, sun and the moon, they are here. Moon is made bigger so that you can see it. And the Rohini is here on the eastern horizon. Everyone follows? Okay. This is October 16, the first day of the war based on me, or Vartak 5561 BCE. Okay. So, that's that simulation. That's how it will look. Yeah. And then people say, oh, but I am confused now. So, I did the other way. Rohini on this side, Saturn, moon and sun on the other side. I said just, you know, ignore the direction. Okay. So, now let us look at the same observation. I am going a bit fast, but it is very, very fascinating. Spend some time on the book. This happens on the 17th day of the war. You know what happened on the 17th day of the war? Karna fell down. After Karna fell down, sunset happens, and that is the description. It says, Brahaspati Rohini Samprapidya Babhuva Chandra Arka Samana Varna. Arka and Chandra. Shashi and Chandra for moon, and Bhaskar here Arka means also the sun, right. Now, here you are nodding the head, guys. When I do it, even I struggle with that. I may spend half an hour convincing people that Arka means sun. To the Indian crowd, it's a reality, you know, and then you just imagine my frustration and still I am smiling, right. Okay. All right. So, what I am saying is, just like just now I showed you how the sun and moon there were afflicting Rohini. Now, I am saying the Jupiter there close to that Purvashada, Uttarashada, Shravan is also afflicting. You see, Brahaspati Rohini Samprapidya Babhuva Chandrarka Samana Varna. How interesting. You see what is interesting? Just like the sun and the moon were afflicting Rohini, Jupiter also was afflicting the Rohini. Yeah, but that first description of the first day, the Amavasya, this is on the 17th day. That's why you don't have sun and moon there. And this is a simulation. Let's see, Jupiter here, okay, again don't worry about the direction, and Rohini here, and you see the sun here, just sunset, gone. This is the horizon, this green line is the horizon, sun has gone below, Jupiter here, Rohini there. This is on the 17th day of the war, October 31st, 16, 17, whatever it is, okay. 16th day, it is a description around there. And so 17th day it will be the same, you know. So November 1st, I made a mistake there, so I took another shot November 1st, you know. It's not going to change much within a day. Everyone with me so far? Any severe objections? Ordinary objections will be ignored. Any severe objections? No? Okay. All right. Now we have one more reference to Jupiter. I'm going to quickly show you but not explain you, because I have to explain the Mars first before I come back to Jupiter. But the reference says, Senayora Shivam Goram Karishyati Mahagra. You can ignore that. You know, these planets will create chaos and whatnot. Maghaswangarako Vakra Shravanecha Brahaspati. Magha Nakshatra, near Magha Nakshatra, Angaraka has gone Vakra, and near Shravan, Brahaspati has gone Vakra. So now we got Angarak. Angarak refers to Mars. With me? And Brahaspati is Brahaspati, so we don't have to do it. So now just remember that Angarak went Vakra near Magha, but we are doing Jupiter. So Jupiter went Vakra near Shravan. And what I have done here, see, this is the ecliptic, and I have drawn this as the orbit of Jupiter. The blue one is the orbit of Jupiter. And what do you see? This is Shravan, number 19 is Shravan. What have I shown there? Anyone? The orbit of the Jupiter is crossing the ecliptic at Shravan. You don't have to buy this argument right now, but I am saying that is what is meant by Mahābharata astronomer as going Vakra. In our times, going Vakra means going retrograde. Okay? How did Mahabharata describe retrograde? Based on whatever you saw. The retrograde, we say it goes backwards, that is retrograde. But another thing what we say, it becomes steady in one place. That is also retrograde. What did it say? Savatsara sthainancho. It becomes steady, it's steady. Grahas, so in one place they are there. And something else. Prajvalito vibho. When they go retrograde, what happens? One thing is they become steady. Instead of going there, now they sort of like slow down and become steady. They also go backward and they shine brightly. You know that? How many of you knew that? When the planet goes retrograde, it shines brightly. It looks brighter. Saturn, Jupiter, all of them. But Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, you will notice it. The Venus and Mercury, you won't notice. Do you know why? Venus is as such bright. So it's not very easy to notice. And Mercury, how many of you have seen Mercury? Raise your hands. It's very fleeting. It's not very easy to observe. You have to be persistent, because very few chances for you to observe, very close to the sun. With me? Morning or evening, both way you can see. But it has to be the right time. And the window of opportunity is very short. Because it's very close to the sun. So because of the glare of the sun, you cannot see it. Okay? So just remember this, what I am calling Vakra here is the crossing, is the oblique crossing of the planet or oblique crossing of the orbit of the planet. I am calling that Vakra. Just stay with me. Okay? So we'll come back and revisit this. So that's arrow. Now let's look at the Mars evidence. Now that is the sequence I did. When I looked at Jupiter and the Vakra, I couldn't explain it. So I said, what you do? A tough problem on the exam, you said, okay, let me leave that, let's go and see what else I can solve. Yes? Don't we do that on the exam? Especially math. So I go okay, I may come back to this. So I went to Mars. Mars has 6 observations. Okay? So this is the combination. So there are 1 observation here related to Magha, we just saw it. Magha Swangarako Vakra. So what is happening here is now you say, it is happening here, crossing the thing, why are you saying it Magha? If I have a time, I will take you there. Then there are 2 observations related to that Chitra Swati area, 1 observation related to Jeshta, and you know what is happening there? Same thing. I will show the observation. It is saying going Vakra near Magha, it also says going Vakra near Jeshta Anuradha. And then there is another observation here related to Shravan and related to Abhijit. Okay, so total of 6 observations. Before I go there, I want to make a point that, again, I didn't have a time to cover, so I am assuming it. Saturn and Jupiter, they go retrograde every year. Every year they go retrograde, and they go retrograde for few months. Now, how many of you understand why they go retrograde? So, for example, if you are observing in the sky, so it's like, slowly going like this, then it will come like this and go here. That's called retrograde, the planet. Why do they go retrograde? Anyone? Okay. Yeah, Earth not different direction, but what happens, like Earth is going faster, at least the outer superior planets, Earth is going faster. So what happens, it's a relative motion, so Earth cross by, and then so when Earth crosses that other planet which is ahead, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, it looks like as if that planet is going backward. Appearance, relative motions, you are going in a car, there is another car, you go faster, you think that that car is going backward, something like this, okay. We'll just leave it at that. Please go to Google, Wikipedia, YouTube, you'll find what the retrograde is, okay. But the reason I'm saying it is, in case of Mars, we know that it goes retrograde only once in 2 years. Please understand, it goes only retrograde once in a 2 year, whereas Mars completes one complete cycle in less than 2 years, 1.88 years. So it has gone through the whole 27 nakshatra in 2 years, but Mahabharata is saying it is going Vakra twice within a span of 7 nakshatras, from Magha here to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then is going again. This was my clue. First thing, I couldn't explain the retrograde. I mean, there is no way I can show retrograde twice in less than that 7 nakshatra. But it was my clue that maybe Mahabharata is not referring to Vakra in a sense of retrograde. So if it is not retrograde, what it could be? So that's how you come up with that solution, the possible project the theory. So I said, what if it is giving this oblique crossing? Now I'm making it simple for you. I sweated on this for 1 year, But what is it if it is this and if it is this, and actually I found that that is the case, I'm going to go a bit fast through it. So let's look at the 6 observations. A mystery of Mars going Vakra twice. Mars goes retrograde every once in about 2 years. Mahabharata text describes Mars going Vakra twice at locations separated by only 7 nakshatras. So I said it cannot be retrograde. This means Mahabharata descriptions are not referring to retrograde motion of Mars when it states Vakra, but something else. This is my theory, okay, when I started. Conjecture that Mahabharata text is referring to oblique motion of Mars across the ecliptic. So I made a conjecture. What is the next thing I need to do? Can I test it? So can we explain it for the descriptions of the Mars in the Mahabharata text near Magha and near Jeshta and Anuradha? I may be able to show you the simulation after the break or so, but let's move on. Can we also test this conjecture for description of Jupiter? Because there are 3 chances I have. Twice for Mars going Vakra and once for Jupiter going Vakra, and very, very specific. Mars going Vakra near Magha, Mars going Vakra near Jeshta Anuradha, and Jupiter going Vakra near Shravan. If I can show, bingo, right? I have scored there, unless someone comes up with a better theory. Alright, so let's see. Okay, so Magha Svangara ko Ukra Shravanech Brahaspati, and so the actual crossing, the mathematical point of crossing was here. So what happened? If I look at the simulation, and there are 8 parts on the Mars, not a very well done video, but I want you to watch it. There are 8 parts on these 6 observations of Mars on the YouTube that I have done, So Mars starts here, and then by the time it comes here, after Rohini or so, it crosses the ecliptic and it comes on the other side. But what happens is that a lot of other things happening. Its location with respect to ecliptic is not that far away of the Mars. So by the time you can actually see it and say, okay, definitely it has gone the other side of ecliptic. You understand what I'm saying? Because the line of ecliptic is not a line that is drawn in the sky. You have to see it. By the time you can see that it has crossed, it comes close to Magha. A distinct star that you can say is Magha. Okay. Then what happens? It goes further. Then it crosses between Vishakha or just after Vishakha, and you can say that it clearly comes on the other side of the ecliptic again near Jeshta Anuradha. In fact, the words are so beautiful, I am going to show you. So just first one is Magha Swangarako Vakra, near Magha it did, is based on that. Okay, yeah. And now the second one, the Jeshta Anuradha, is this. Krutva Changarako Vakra Jeshtaya Madhusudana Anuradha Prarthayate Maitram Samshayamanyu. As if like making a friendship with Anuradha. Of course, the Maitri is also the Nakshatra Devata of Anuradha. And this one is also interesting. Let's see if you want to do it here. Okay, so this is also referring to the Mars, okay? Here. Krutva Jesthaya Madhusudana, Angarako, we got Angarako here, yes, yeah. So same Angarak, same Mars here, and now the nakshatras. So this is that it's going around that Jeshta and Anuradha, crossing Vakri, okay. Now we come to the Chitra. Now there are two verses. One, it says, this is another explanation of a retrograde of Mars. So if those two are not retrograde, somewhere Mars might have done retrograde, maybe not during that time, but if it has Mahabharata recorded it? Lucky us, it has. First line, Dhruvam Prajwalitam Ghoram. Now immediately you hear Dhruva, and what do you think? What do you think? Dhruva, if I say Dhruva, what do you think? You don't think anything, no? Pole star, right? But Dhruva also has another meaning. What is it? Becoming steady. That's why it's a Dhruva. So that's, I mean, you know, not that also can become a fighting. No, that Dhruva Tara, and what are you doing? They will say, Dhruvam Prajwalitam Ghoram. By becoming steady, it is shining, burning brightly, Ghoram, scary, okay? Apasavya Pravartate. Apasavya Pravartate. It is going in a non-normal, abnormal direction. Chitra Swatyantare Chaiva Deshtitah Parushagra. It has become steady, fixed between Chitra and Swati Nakshatra. Okay? I will see during the break if I can find the simulation. You will love it. What you just see here, seeing is believing, you will see that. And Ghora, it turning Ghora also. You can simulate that, you know. Chitra Swatyantare Chaiva Deshtitah Parushagra. So those are two. The next one, that is also related to the Mars, because it's just continuing. Okay? So this Mars came here, from here, and it was here. Do you know how long? 6 months. When it goes retrograde, it actually takes 4 or 5 months. It is there. It becomes steady. You can see many references to Mars becoming steady in Ramayana also. Okay, and you can use that. The next one it's saying, okay, yeah. So it is becoming steady near Chitra. That is one. There is another reference here. First one we explained, this one. The second part says, it's continuing with Angarak. Nunam Madbhayam Krishna Kuruna Samupastitam Visheshena hi Varshneya Chitra Pediyate Graha. Visheshena hi Varshneya Chitra Pediyate Graha. So specifically that this planet, Angarak, Mars, is afflicting Chitra. Now you know how that scene was looking there? So this is Chitra. Okay, two ladies, please come here, Arya and somebody else. Quick, fast. Two of you. Quick. Because they are Chitra and Swati, all the Vayus of the moon there, okay? So just stand there, and next to you, you stand there, okay? So that's, yeah, stand there, leave some space, go there further. Okay, thank you. So I am Mars now, okay? The Angarak. So actually the way it was in the sky, okay? So there, Nunam, so Krutva Changarako Vakra, that happened afterwards. But Nunam Mahadbhayam Krishna Kuruna Samupastitam. So this is Chitra, this is Swati. Visheshena hi Varshneya Chitra Pidayate Graham. The Mars came all the way straight in this region, went backwards. Hello. Chitra Pidayate Graham. Okay, thank you. You can go. So it's like as if we will talk in a practical life, like some boy walking and kind of, troubling a girl. Okay, Chitra Pediyate Graham. So that reference is also there because that's exactly what happened. It went here, went up to Swati, came back to Chitra and then went further. Then it crossed Vakra. Now the last one. Vakra, now we'll go to Vakra Nukra Krutvamcha. Okay. Not just Thira. No, Dhruva means Thira, but also Apasavya Pravartate. Going in the wrong direction, abnormal to the normal. And what is it? What is that? Prajwalitam Ghoram. Again, no? We also saw that in Saturn. And how close? Okay, so for example, this is about a year's journey. In fact, all the observations are made over a period of approximately 1 to 2 years. So you take the Mahābhārata War possibly up to a year before and year after. And people say, oh come on, so how can it be that? I said, have you read the observation? Samvatsaram sthainancho graha prajulito vibhav vishakhayo samipasto brahaspati shaneshwara. They are saying it. These two planets were steady in one place, shining brightly for up to a year, which means they are making that observation up to a year. Okay. And this last one here, Vakranu Vakram Krutvam cha Shravane Pavaka Prabha Brahma Rashi Samavrutta Lohitango Vyavastita. Okay, so what has it done? Now see, Vakranu Vakram Krutvam cha, it has gone Vakra twice, it has gone Anuvakra once in the backward direction, that Apasavya direction. So it has done all kinds of stuff. Vakranu Vakram Krutvam cha, after all this, Shravane Pavaka Prabha, it came close to bright nakshatra Shravana. And then it says Brahma Rashi Samavrutta. Remember yesterday I read different from southern edition. Brahmyam Nakshatra Mashrityam. Here Brahma Rashi, this is from Gita Press or Bhandarkar. Brahma Rashi Samavrutta Lohitango Vyavastita. Okay, so Lohitango, do we have that here? No, we don't have it. Angarak and Lohitango is also Mars. Okay, either you already know it or you trust me that that is the case. Okay, Lohitango Vyavastito, Brahma Rashi. So now if you look at this position, how beautiful. Brahma Rashi is indeed Brahmyam Nakshatra. The Nakshatra Devata of Abhijit is Brahma. So that's Brahma Rashi. Brahma Rashi also you find in many other texts. But the point I want to make it is this. On the 16th October, let's see if I have a simulation. No. On 16th October, let's say this is Abhijit or Brahma Rashi. I should say Brahma Rashi. This was Shravan and this was Dhanishta. Let us say that are the positions coming from here. And do you know where Mars was? It was right here. The location of Mars on the 16th October is after Shravan, before Dhanishta and next to Brahma Rashi. How accurate? Brahma Rashi Samavruttam, along it Lohitango Vyavastita. Okay. Which one we are doing right now? Mars. Okay. And then there is one more observation. This is on the last day of the war. Okay. After the 18th day, the description says, Bhrugu Suno Dharaputro Shashi Jena Samanvito Charamam Pandu Putranam Purastat Sarvabhu Vajam. The first three. Bhrugu Suno. Can you tell me who it is? Bhrugu, the keyword. Venus. Yeah. Yeah. So, but Suna is Putra also is a Shukra. Yes, yes. Yeah. So, because Bhrugus are what? How many Bhrugus? Many Bhrugus. Huh? Yeah. Okay. So, Bhrugu Suno, who is a Dhara Putro? Yes. So, Mars is a Dhara Putro. Shashi Jaina. Shashi Jaina. So, Mercury. You will find another name also. Okay. Shashi Jaina. In fact, you know, Bhrugu Suno. In English, you know what sun means, right? Son. Son, father and son, right? Came from here. It's there in Sanskrit already. Supa is already there in Mahabharata. The soup that we eat is there. Supakarta. Bhima is called Supakarta when he is a Ballav. No, we always called it, but Supa we think, many of us at least think it's a soup came from somewhere else. Yes. We think it's from there. Yes. Yes, we should, but it is a Sanskrit origin. Yeah. But many people don't know, at least I did not know it at a while. And if, you know, it thinks because only when you go there you drink soup, you know. Here it is a sambar, rasam, yeah, and all like that. Okay. And then, so that's what it is. Now, what if you do, what you find is, remember, those on the 18th day of the war, you can find actually on the 55-16 BC, 2nd of November, those three, Mars, Mercury and Venus were together. You can show that for this. I might have a simulation. Let's quickly go Venus. So this one is easy. You followed what I'm saying? I did the Mars now. I am quickly going to Venus. Same one, I started with the one that I just explained, okay. So Venus is there, Bhrigu Suno, okay. So that explains the first observation of Venus. The second observation of Venus, very beautiful. Again, I have a simulation, I am able to find it, I will show you. If not, search for Nilesh Oak, something, you know. Shukram proshtapade purve samaruyya vishampate uttare tu parikramya sahita pratyudikshate. It is saying Shukra proshtapade purve. So Shukra came to Purva Bhadrapada, okay. Samaruyya vishampate came kind of close to it. Uttare tu parikramya sahita pratyudikshate. And after turning north, and some people translate that as after going to Uttara Bhadrapada, fine, doesn't matter. After turning north, it made a parikrama. Uttare tu parikramya sahita pratyudikshate. Do you know what that is? If Venus comes and makes a circle like this, what is that? That is retrograde of Venus. Venus makes two kinds of retrograde. Either it makes a circle or it makes the English Z or Z. When it's possible, and I'll not go into that, you know, if it happens due with a certain positions of the earth and the sun and that, then it does like that. So two type of thing it does, either Z or circle. It did happen to do circle and it's captured. And where did it do? Purva Proshtapade, Purva Bhadrapada. You cannot fool around with 27 nakshatras. I'll show you the simulation for the 55-61 time period. Beautiful. Huh? Yes, now I'm going to show you the circle here. This is Purva Bhadrapada, location of Purva Bhadrapada, and that is a circle. So in fact, it just came like this. Here, okay, this is Purva Bhadrapada. So this is Shatataraka, Shatabhishaj. It came here, it turned to the north, came backward, and then went here. Again, Venus does it also what? Once every 2 years or something, the retrograde. So again, you cannot fool around Venus and make him do it, and definitely not make him do it around Purva Bhadrapada. Are you with me? You follow? Okay. So, Shukram Proshtapade Purve Samaruye Shampate Uttare tu Parikramya Sahita Pratyudikshate. So, that's the second one. Alright, quickly Mercury evidence. The first one is easy. You all must be feeling too. Thank God, you know. That's it. Okay. Not another verse to read, you know. Okay. Or listen to this guy, you know, whichever way you look at it. Okay. So that's constant. Those are the three. But the second one, how many I said? 2 or 3? There are 3 actually. This second one is kind of interesting. Okay, so they all 3 are here. So this is when we did Bhrigu Dharaputro Shashijano Samanvito. And you know what, people, why is there? You can assure me somewhere the fight broke. Somewhere when I was giving a lecture, the fight broke, you know. So I just said, okay, please, here are my translations of the Sanskrit and so on and so forth. Tiryak. Somebody says Tiryak means only one word. Like, you know, there are many meanings to it. And so, no, how can you say Tiryak? So I just go to the Sanskrit dictionary, I said, yeah, here is the meaning. Okay, things like that. So first I explained already this. I will come back to this. But these two together, but let's go here. Because, you know, the transliteration error and changes. Here it says, Yamasya Putro Abhidaya Rajan. Now, in case of planets, who is the Putra of Yama? We know Yamagraja, that is a Shani, right? Nilanjana Samavasam Ravi Putram Yamagrajam Chaya Martanda Sambhutam Tam Namami Shanishcharam. But who is a Yama Putra? At least I don't know, not many other researchers could find out. But there is that variation. If you see here, Somasya Putro Abhidaya Tiryak. This is again on the same time, 17th day of the war, Karna has gone. We saw the description of Brospati. This is other description of Mercury. What it is saying is Somasya Putra. We just did here Shashi Jaina. Shashi is a moon. And a Putra of a Shashi. Here it is written as Somaputra. You follow what I am doing? Okay. Somasya Putro Abhidaya Tiryak. So what it says is when that happened, when the Karna killed, you know, Karna was killed, Hate Karne Sarito na Prasannu, blah 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 blah. Somasya Putro Abhidaya Tiryak. So Mercury was rising, Abhyuday. Mercury became visible, Abhyuday, etc. in a Tiryak fashion. Something oblique, something non-normal, you know, you can look at the various meaning. Now, you know what was happening? Again, it's not easy to observe the Mercury. But on the western horizon, that can also happen on the eastern horizon, by the way. But on the western horizon, if it's in the right way, meaning it's going to the east and going away from the sun, And if you observe it, you are going to observe only at the sunset. Once the sun goes down, you will see it. If it's going away from the sun in the east direction, every day if you observe it, you are going to see sun goes down and Mercury comes up. Comes up meaning it's up, 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 up in the air. I don't know, you can see it. Can you change the lights there? Here. If you can change the lights, I'll show you. See, at least I'll show you. The Mercury is going like this over a period of 20 days or so. So every subsequent day, if you cannot, that's fine. Do you see it? The dots, 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 dots for Mercury. It is the location of a Mercury done over a period of 15 to 20 days. So every year passing by, the Mercury is above in the sky on the western horizon. So that could be considered the Thiryk for lack of other explanation. But that was the scenario during the 16 October to 2 November 5561 BCE. Okay, thank you. You can turn it on. So Somasya Putra Abhidaya Thiryk. So that's the explanation for the Mercury. Okay, now this picture that I showed you is not from the Mahabharata times. Okay, this one is not from the Mahabharata times. It is it is actually a Spanish, someone enthusiastic Spanish astronomer. He put lot of effort and did this in March of 2000. But it very clearly shows how somebody will write at Somasya Putra Abhidaya Thiryk. And then there is one last one, Trishu Purveshu Sarveshu Nakshatrayeshu Vishabmate. Not a very important reference because all it is saying, it's been interpreted by at least 3 different ways, but one of the interpretation is Mercury traveling ahead of Sun through 3 nakshatras. So if you take Purvashada, Uttarashada, Shravana, you can show that during the 18 days of the war, it went through the 3 nakshatras ahead of the Sun, assuming that is the interpretation of it. Okay, but there is no better interpretation than what I have given. I mean, people have not even bothered to do the interpretation. Okay, all right. Long stretch. Even if you haven't understood every single thing, how many of you understood, just got a flavor of it, the planetary observations and near the planets? On a feast of, feast, this is like, come on, are you kidding? You fool, or this one is, like, okay, very good. That's fine, okay, that's fine. I mean, that's great actually, what you are showing me is good. One key thing, the retrograde versus Vakra, I think that's a great takeaway. Okay, so let's look at the retrograde quickly. So Saturn and Jupiter is given, Samvatsara Sthainancho Graha Prajvalito Vivo. The next one, Mars, Dhruvam Prajvalitam Ghoram Apasavya Pravartate, Chitra Swatyantare Chaiva. If I see this simulation, I'll show you, otherwise watch it on the YouTube. I have the videos there. What happened about the Venus? So I'm going from Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, now Venus. Shukram Proshtapade Purve Samaruya Vishampate Uttare Tu Parikramya Sahita Pratidikshite. That is the retrograde. And in case of Mercury, the retrograde is not there, but then remember, Mercury is not even seen that much. So whatever is seen, it is shown. But the Thiryk motion, meaning it was backward rising against the western horizon, is captured. And it can be shown for that day. When it comes to Vakra, there were 3 Vakra. 2 Vakra with Mars, and they could be shown near Magha and then Jeshta Anuradha, and 1 Vakra near Shravan. I didn't show you, but in simulation you can see. So what is the takeaway? Like an insight aha is, in the Mahabharata times, retrograde was described in many different ways, and Vakra referred to the oblique motion of the planets across this. Yes, one day. It cannot be one day, right? It is what the meaning, because if you see what Vyasa is saying, I am observing the sky every day and night. Vyasa. Last day of the, second last day of the war. So it's not like, for example, well, I mean, so you would say, I mean, you don't have to say it. I would say, well, is it like a perfect Thiryk, Samidaya Thiryk? No, it's not. What is the better one? Eclipses? No, it doesn't. it becomes applicable for a solar eclipse. During the solar eclipse, you may able to see the stars. But what's the big deal? I mean, it can be a big deal. In Ramayana, there is a description. Ramayana, there is a solar eclipse, and it says that all the stars were visible. So we know that it was a very close to what you call total eclipse. But otherwise, in fact, let me tell you just one. No, because the thing is, you skip that day of eclipse, you have the same sky scenario to watch. Nothing else is going to change in the 1 day or 2 days. You understand what I'm saying? So eclipse doesn't do. In fact, since you brought up the subject, let me tell you, people make, when I say people, I mean Mahābhārata researchers and consumers both, make a big deal out of eclipses. There are 6 references to in Mahābharata related to eclipse. Like yesterday, our guest was talking about eclipses. Yeah. No, I'm not saying you are making a big deal. Yes, making a big deal. Making a big deal. Yeah, making a big deal. If I have earned some credit, credibility with you guys, I mean, irrespective of that, I'll say it. I'll tell you that eclipse evidence is useful to reject certain dates. But it is not so much useful to establish certain dates. And that sense or otherwise, I will say, especially considering the amount of discussion in the Mahābharata or Ramayana also, we have not talked Ramayana, then you will get different players, by the way, if you go to Ramayana. Saroj Bala and Pushkar Bhatnagar and those folks come into the picture. In any of it, the eclipse evidence, whether Mahābharata, Ramayana, other places, is the most, listen carefully, I know it's afternoon, most useless evidence. Most useless evidence, okay? Now I said it's useful to sort of validate, but why most useless evidence? What happens as soon as you go behind 2000 years, I'll not write it, as soon as you go behind beyond 2000 years, 2 types of errors comes in, okay? Remember the sun and a moon and earth, they have to come together. The moon's motion, like you will think, oh boy, something else must be the toughest one. The moon is the easy guy. I know moon, right? I see it every day. The predicting the moon's motion is the toughest challenge of astronomy. Not the sun, not the planets, nothing. Predicting the motion of the moon is the toughest challenge. Newton was scratching his head for 15 years. Everything else he could do, but not the moon. Moon won't yield to him. It is that tough. Okay. So what happens is, because of that, as you go backward, what happens is there is a Earth's rotation. There is a slight change in the Earth rotation. We call it delta T correction. That comes into the picture. The moon is the most tricky part, and then few factors come in. So what happens when we see in a simulation or mathematical calculation a eclipse occurring? We have 2 big uncertainties about it. One is which location it will be seen, and the second one is what kind of eclipse. Will it be a full eclipse? Will it be a partial or no eclipse? Although it looks like on our simulation there is eclipse, but it may not be. That makes it the worthless evidence. Otherwise, nothing personally against the eclipse evidence. But this uncertainty is so much that what happens? You can use that evidence whichever way you want. So suppose for your date there is no eclipse, right? I mean, you cannot see the eclipse. You say, look, the eclipse data is such a tough to predict. Come on, you cannot expect me to show the eclipse. You understand? Suppose the eclipse is shown, they says, well, but you know that, so even if it is not expected, it can be there and it may not be watched. It is used to find the way. That's why it has become not. No, we shouldn't reject it. For example, yesterday he mentioned, now did he speak in Sanskrit? No, he spoke in English. He mentioned something happening within the 13 days. I know somebody looked at the astronomy, 2 eclipses within the 13 days. Now, I don't know if you were paying attention. What did he say about the 2 eclipses in the 13 days? First thing, happening within 13 days. Within 13 days, now it is a matter of interpretation. You understand why? So, what do you mean by 13 days? Is it like within 13 days or 13 days in between? Like a first day 13 and then the 14th day? If it is, it's possible. No big deal. It happens every year, every alternate year. If you are talking exactly 13 days or less than 13 days, Not just rare, it's mathematically impossible. People have done calculation and shown that it is mathematically impossible. And if you look at the Mahabharata verses for those 13 and 14, one place, some verse it says about the eclipses, other says that particular verse about 13 is not about eclipses, but it's about the Amavasya occurring in those 13 days. You have seen it, right? So there is that whole scope. Now, I'm not saying you reject it. I have analyzed it and you will say it, but you know that is going to be a very inferior type of evidence. That's not where you start. And that's not where you make the decisions, okay? I think I gave you enough on this one, so your brains must be fried up. So are we ready for a break? Okay. All right, how long? 15 minutes, and we'll be back for, what is it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we will look at this multiple claims, different claims of Mahabharata and yeah.
Pandavas were supposed to be incognito for one entire year, and if they were found before then they have to go back for 13 years, otherwise they could claim their Rajya back. And then there was this whole argument about whether that year had passed or not, and all that was a astronomical meaning.
The timing, calculation. Time.
So what is your, I know it's...
Yeah, see what I would say, I have one blog on this, you know, about the 13 years, did they complete the Vanvas, Pandavas complete the Vanvas. I wrote one article, I have done entire research that you can imagine or cannot imagine. And they just wrote one article, I never got time to write the next. That particular blog on my blog, out of the 500 articles, gets the most hit. Because I get to see it, you know, and that gets the 13. Did Pandavas completed the 13 years? It is a thesis by itself that one has to write. Even then it will be inconclusive, okay, as to exactly what happened, because because there is no basis, there is no reference as to what they had agreed upon. Is it the lunar year, solar year, and so on and so forth. Also, we don't have the starting point of the one, their not Adnyatvas, they're going to the forest. We don't have a good idea for the starting point. It needs to be estimated, and then this needs to be estimated. There is no, I mean, we don't have a good agreement as to what they agreed upon. So, lot of unknowns. Still, lot of insights can be drawn. But see, I mean, yeah. Yeah, so what it tells about the calendar is that during the Mahabharata times, they had a perfect method, they had a method of taking Adhik Mas, approximately 2 Adhik Mas every 5 years. That is what Bhishma says. And you know, exactly how they took it, we don't know. Again, I don't have a time. See, you can, this is argument, and you can go and look at my blog and see the people's comments. For example, there was one person, now wonderful person, he critiqued my book, he wrote a book on my book. You can see it online, Prabhakar, now late Prabhakar Fadnis, you know, he wrote a book like critique of my 5561 BCE. So he would say the 2 Adhika Masa, based on the interpretation of that verse, the Bhishma's verse, were taken together, meaning for 5 years they didn't take any Adhik Masa correction, and then they made a correction of 2 months. Now he made many other errors, but the main error or his argument is that 2 Adhika Masa were taken together. And you know, if you start reading, I mean, it will take 20-30 posts you are going to go between him and me. But basically, it can be shown that that cannot happen. The 2 lunar months will not be ever taken together to make a correction. Do you know why? One of the beauty, you will introduce error, and one of the beauty is Pratyaksha. You have to see it. So the moon has to be close to the nakshatra to call that the Purnima. What happens? After 2.5 years go by, if you don't make the correction, the connection between the name of the lunar month and what you see is gone. So you cannot wait for another 2 years. Okay, so that is the argument. So it will remain unconclusive. I mean, if the Shodha Samsthan can come up with a proposal, I may work on it. The research is done. The reason I have not worked, because it's not on my priority list. Because I said that's fine. There is more. Yeah. And in the long run, whether they completed 13 years or not did not matter, because Duryodhan didn't have an intention anyways to give it. And of course, Bhim was telling that right from the beginning. He said, why are we wasting 13 years? If you go, you would have read that. 13, he said, according to Shastra, 13 months are same as 13 years. We have finished 1 year, let's go kill them. And I was telling about Krishna, Bhima anticipating Krishna. When they meet, Krishna says, if I was there, now see, Bhim in the Draupadi Vastraran, Bhim says, let me kill them, and Yudhishthir and whoever, Arjun, stopped him. Krishna says, if I was there, I would have killed them right there. Now, how that is different than what Bhima was saying or Bhima was doing? Okay, but that's a different factor. Okay, let's take a break, 15 minutes.